Welcome, everybody, to the final Emergency 9 of 2019. Up here, we got the RSM Classic. Thank God it's over. I will say that myself.
Yes, you're saying it for me.
With me, as always, partner in crime, Tambo at Toe Tag and Tambo on Twitter. How you doing tonight, Tambo?
I'm good. I mean, you said it for me. It's not even that I hate this. I don't want to say it like that because it's exciting. It's the last one of the year. We do this all year. It's a grind for sure, but I mean, it's still exciting. It's a full field. I think that's awesome. Finally going to get the actual cut sweat on Friday that we haven't had for a while, where you get, a big number that you're going to be trying to get through the cut. So, I'm excited for it still. It's just a matter of, like you said, the grind ending. And I think it's more of knowing the break. It's kind of like the last day at work before your vacation starts, where you're like, they say, you're checked out, aren't you? You say, yeah, I'm just thinking about that beach or whatever it might be. So it's the same sort of thing. We're just waiting on the break, but we'll go through this and bang out another E9 here and get through the stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably as invested as I've been in the whole fall swing as far as monetary value in DraftKings, and certainly betting hasn't changed a whole lot. And this week, I still got to finalize my final card, but my outrights and all that kind of stuff are pretty similar. I'm not checked out by any means on the tournament. It's just more of, like you said, the process, the grind, and then I mean, honestly, there's some of it, we'll evaluate going into next year, but, when there's not as much interest, it's hard to, sometimes it takes the community to build the interest and stuff. And so when you log on and there's one question, which is also a contributor, so 0 questions from members at 2 minutes before it's supposed to go live, you're kind of like, all right, what's the point doing all of it? Because you lose, I mean, not that you lose interest. I'm going to still do it because I do it for myself and my personal game, but, we have to dedicate hours upon hours. I don't think people realize how much dedication and hours go in behind pods and chats and research and, posting it, and then have to crank back up and do all the football, right? So football just now starts tonight for the most part, but you have to back build. So all, last night you build rankings and build, projections. And then, so you're ready for tonight, because unlike some, we have full-time career jobs. So it is a grind. I enjoy it, but I enjoy it when the community enjoys it. And that's what with anything we do. Like I've always stated, I don't care about the money. The money's been good this year, but it's all went right back into the business or paying the people that I've hired to be a part of the company, which we have a big group. And I think people are realizing that now. So it's not a self, made thing for me. So my biggest joy is helping people and seeing the excitement and them learning. And there's many nights that I don't feel like doing shit, and I read people's stuff throughout the Slack, and it fires me up and it gives me motivation. So there's been a little bit of that downwardness in golf. And I think some of it necessarily has to do with golf, but some people check out for the entire fall swing. They just go, I'm done. I need a break. Some get tired of the Asian swing. It's in a different time zone. You don't get to watch it. And then we've had a couple tournaments when it's been bad weather, so it throws off the whole schedule. And so it's not been the best of fall swings, but it's been difficult to get through, which sucks because this is probably the best one, like you said, to actually be, encouraged by. You get 4 rounds, should get all of it in. There's no rain really in the forecast no more. We get 1 round without shot tracker, but it's a new course, so there's some excitement there unknown. You got 155 guys, 101 of them are at $6,900 or less. So I mean, odds are it's going to be a 5% or less type 6 of 6. So there's some excitement there. I think once it kicks off tomorrow, it'll be a little bit of a deep breath and everybody enjoy it. Yeah. But it has been a little bit of a grind. I released all the final thoughts a little late. I've been this, which doesn't help me at all. This coincides to be one of my busiest weeks of the entire year of my real quote unquote career. And then kind of like you stated, I plan to take my first vacation in about 3 years. That's actually a full week next week. But I'm not in that checkout mode because I'm super, super busy at work, and then we're doing this. So it's just been nonstop. And so I didn't get them out real early. Did you get a chance to review ownership, any of that, anything? There's a couple things I have noted that kind of caught my eye. I mentioned it in the final thoughts. I think the final thoughts has some good tips in there if you get the chance to read them overall, but not really range specific, but any top 2 or 3 things that catch your mind, and then I'll kind of tell you mine.
I mean, it's not anything huge. The one thing that right out of the gate that caught my eye was, 6,900 and below. It's all, we talk about this all the time, but it's just, pick your poison. They're all spaced out. Nobody's over 8.88%. And Robert Streb, I mean, there's so many options. You talked about, I believe, on the Smash Factor this week. I was listening to it on the way to work the other day. And, you mentioned it, like 100 something guys in down in this area, yet none of them garner over 10%. That's amazing. I mean, that's what you kind of want for something like that. So you can really just play who you want. And for me, it's good because I talked about it lots in Slack last night. I talked about it in my article. This is probably one of the only weeks all year. And it's not that I'm checked out, like you say, or like I mentioned, but it's more about if you're not feeling it, I don't believe you should invest into it that way. And I'm not feeling MME this week. I don't like that the $8 went 50K to first, 10K to second. I feel confident in enough of my plays that I just wanted to build, for
what was it last week? Because I didn't pay attention to that. Like just
15 or 20, 15 or okay. 20. It's still not great, but it just now they really sawed it off. And, someone mentioned about like the milli makers and, that's even worse, right? Wouldn't it be? Because that's $1 million and then 100K or 150K. And yes, I get that, but it doesn't take much to fire me up besides $1 million and the Masters. I don't care what the cutoff is. I'm filling that tournament and I'm watching the Masters. It's the best tournament of the year, in my opinion. So to me, it's totally different. This is the last event of the year. It's not a scrub field. It's just not the best field. It's exciting for DFS golf fans because of, like we said, the full cut event. One thing you didn't even mention that I'm more pumped about for this weekend than anything, and I'm sure the rest of the Slack and the members will be, is Showdown. Finally, I know we only get 75% of the shot link data, but for me, I love following your Showdown picks and rolling with those on a week like this. This is where our biggest edge is, and that's if people are underestimating that for the new year, that's where we're actually going to slaughter people, because much like in football, where Showdown has taken over the industry, and so to speak, as far as NFL, they have $1 million giveaway every friggin' week for that, and then they split it down to even 500K for first last week. Now that's where our edge is in golf. The Showdown is going to just keep getting bigger and bigger, right? People love it. It's still real golf. It's even more fun in golf because it's independent. There's not so much correlations besides the sense of ones we can take advantage of, like weather draws or tee times or courses, course draws, things like that. So I'm pumped for Showdown this week. Just for me, I'm more pumped about the $100, the $200 single entry. I'll duplicate it into the 8 and 44 just so I have it in there in case. But I really do like my lineups, and you and I talked about doing some strategy things and that in the off season. I almost feel like it'd be a cool exercise for the members to see maybe you review my 3-entry max or something, because that's somewhere I struggle admittedly, and that would be somewhere you could help me and help everybody learn from that. But I think you'd be proud of my builds this week. I think they're nice. I think they're spaced out correctly.
Yeah, Showdown is definitely going to be an edge. I hope that it continues to grow. I mean, not like NFL, but hopefully there's always been a hesitancy, especially on someone like myself, to release Showdown information when the event or the contest I would play in has like 20 or 22 guys, and half of them have Gups Corner logos, which, that's selfish in myself to say, but I went ahead and bit the bullet and did it this year. And many of the guys won, which I was happy for. And I was like, well, I'm one of the guys that say I want to beat the best on their best day. So if that's what it is, that's what it is. But do I want to see some nice 500, entry contests and Showdown? Sure, absolutely, because it would give the whole community a bigger advantage, plus bigger pots. And I think we'll get there, and especially with the big push on live betting type stuff, that will only coincide it. People have to play it, obviously, but I don't think I know they never ever issue filling Golf Showdown during the real season, quote unquote. Yeah. So it should continue to grow for sure. This week will be a little tricky. I thought about adding to my final thoughts, but I ran out of time. I'll probably put it in Slack earlier, but I'll mention it here is, obviously if you're going to play tomorrow or Friday, historically it would tell you to play Plantation guys. If you want to be contrarian and play RSM and think that Plantation may be difficult for the guys first time seeing it, you can, but virtually every presser that I was able to catch up on or hear while I was driving, it doesn't sound as such. And it actually sounds like it may even be a hair easier overall once people are comfortable. So if I was going to play tomorrow, which I'm not, I'm just going to do my main. I hardly ever play round one Showdown.
Plus you got first round leader, right? So I always struggle with that. If I'm going to bet first round leaders, that's kind of like my Showdown. Let's smash an 80-1 first round leader and run away with that instead.
Right. And I haven't checked yet. Sometimes Bovado will put them up and just say Plantation course only. But last I checked, which was this morning, they didn't have it. But I know some books will have it. But still, if I know there's a clear weather advantage or something like that, then I may play round one. And then round two is going to be the stats we do have will be for the guys that play, Seaside. So that'll be nice because you get some stats. Although they're going to an easier course, at least we'll be able to kind of pick up on some form and some key stuff. And We'll be all right tomorrow night. I'll be good. I'll be locked and loaded. I'll have some showdown rankings for sure every night, and I'll be ready for that. I'm doing a little bit different as well this week on the lineup building. I did do the 200 single, 100 single, and I think I just did one in the 100, and then I'm going to do 10 or 15 in the 44 type deal instead of doing 3 or 4 in the 100, and see if that kind of, because it was only a 39 max in the 44, so I felt with my edge I could do 10 lineups.
Yeah, I think that's good. I like that actually. And in hindsight, that seems like more like something I probably should have done. I just, like I said, I've got a good feel on 3 lineups, and then it went to like 4. I was even texting with you, joking about it. I said, actually, it turned into 4 now. And then, by the way, it turned into 5. But I cut myself off at 5. It's just when you're used to making 100, right? It's so hard to shut it down. But I correlated them all. Like I did build it on a core, so either hit or miss. But I feel like the problem with the $8 when it's like 50 and 10K is that if you hit, it might be for like third, and then you run away with like 5K. I'm not dissing 5K and saying that sucks. I'm just saying I feel like if I had those same 5 lineups, I can duplicate in there anyway. But I just don't want to build for that when I can be happy with 6 to 10K on a smaller field that I actually have more of a chance at it. That's my opinion this week.
Well, we talked about in the football pod for guys that don't follow us on football that, too many people lock into their contests routinely every week before they digest how they feel about the field. I mean, I think you should have some go-to contests to go, especially if you're a very strict and you play the same stuff. You just go to it. You don't even look around. So like, I'm kind of newer to NBA. I did a little bit last year, had some success, failed some. Definitely have more an advantage this year with Preston and Dan and the Slack in itself. But I pretty much have, because it's nightly or the ones I want to play, I pretty much have found like 3 or 4 that I like because I don't have time to build MME, not during the week right now. I may do some, especially during the holidays or like, the big Christmas day or something. But, I'm like, all right, I'm going to build a single lineup. So what gives me the best advantage? Or if I build 3 max, what gives me the best? So I think the mentality would be to identify the contest you like depending on A or B. So if I'm in a single to 3 max mindset, okay, these are my go-to, so I know it. If I'm in a, man, I either you like too many guys or you go, man, I just don't know what the hell's going on. I'm just going to do, $21 this week because, I still get my action. I get my little degen and I can't decide. Or you really love, 6 or 7 guys up top and you're not going to be able to fit them in. So you want to go that way. I would at least narrow it down like that. I have a notepad, right? Actually, it's right over here. A lot of ideas on stuff we will deep dive in for the premium members only during these next 5 to 6 weeks. I don't know what it is, 5 weeks off. Definitely probably going to take most of next week off except for the football content, and then kind of recharge our batteries, and I'll get with Tambo and we'll get some game plan on some. We'll do them like this tonight where we'll record them to be on the site, but only you guys that are premium members will have access. This will be our information that we wouldn't share elsewhere for you guys only, not really a general pod type stuff. We may do 1 or 2 of those just to kind of like our 2020 season preview type stuff, but our contest strategy, bankroll management, all that stuff that we need to deep dive into, the process stuff and update was going to be for you guys. And I think we're going to have a huge advantage, especially with the golf tools once they come out. Saw a lot of new things over the weekend. I'm playing around with them in the background. I don't think anybody's going to be disappointed when they roll out. I think it's, it's going to be version 1 when we roll them out. We'll continue to grow over the season. But what you see now is about 15 to 25% max, maybe 20% max of what we already have built on the foundation that'll roll out for the Tournament of Champions. It's just been putting it all together and getting in the right boxes and everything. And then Josh doing his thing, which he's incredible. We work well together. And so I think you guys will be pleased. It's unique. It'll be a different layout and format than you've seen anywhere else. We're not out competing against anybody like, Fantasy National or Daily Roto's tools or anybody's tools. It's just our own deal. Moose and I have a great relationship. I think he's committed with Mayo to come to Honda. So I'm looking forward to seeing those guys again. I still plan on telling people, hey, if you want that style of deep dive, like Pro Football Focus, go get it. Our tools are a little bit different. With the price point we're going to have out, especially for you premium members, you'll be able to afford both if you want, but that's your call. Like I'm not going to come on there and be like, our stuff's the best ever now. Cancel all your memberships. This is what you need. I'm just going to tell you, as being a member here, here's an advantage and something you can get a hold of. And not only that, if you want to try to get into the Honda Classic, it's one of your best ways to get 2 tickets real quick.
I heard there's going to be a pretty good discount code for internal members as well.
Yeah, so it'll be the biggest code we've ever given. It'll only be for members only. JB we have a way of monitoring who uses it. So if someone tries to get sketchy, we'll obviously catch that. But hopefully, I don't think anyone in our community is like that. But it'll be a 1 week only, maybe 2 weeks because I want people to try it out. But and it'll be, hey, if you believe in us, here you go, lock and load. You're going to get it as cheap as it'll ever be. One time only offer for current members, and then we move on. You can either want to get in or you don't, right? Shit or get out the pot is what my coaches always say. So it's kind of in my mindset. My quick thoughts, I think you kind of nailed it. I think the 8,000 range is loaded. I think a lot of talk there, a lot of great plays, a lot of course fit guys, a lot of them pretty well on recent form. So I think a lot of action is going to be down there. I could see a couple of them flirting with 20%. I could see a lot of them almost all of them could be double-digit owned, right? I mean, I have Garnett at 6%, but you could virtually see all of them, maybe one. Because of that, I really struggled with the 5K or 5-figure range which kind of tells me you may have a guy go cherry pick one, maybe skip most of the 9, double up in the 8 and then go down because you have so many options in the 7 and 6 type of deal. There's a lot of different strategies with the way the field's coming out. I hope the projections are somewhat close. It was a difficult one, not having a lot of recent information, but that kind of stood out to me. There wasn't anybody that really just blew me away with, man, I can't believe he's that high. I knew Damon was going to get talked up, or I knew he was going to be high because of how he's been talked up. So it didn't really shock me when I kind of did all the algorithms and stuff. And like I said, 6K range this week, there's no reason to worry about anybody. Just play whoever you want. Whoever fits best. I don't see anybody getting to 10%. So that was kind of all my takes. Has anything, as far as I don't know your models and all that, but has anybody jumped a lot or moved down a lot as far as your personal opinion, just on thinking through, regardless of ownership, just more of since Monday, since you and Kenny talked?
No, not really. What happened more is to the point of construction, and you talked about it a little bit, but I don't think like 2 or 3 9K guys is going to be as common, even though it looks like people are balancing based on these ownerships. I still think it's what you said. I think it's Horschel, a 9K guy, and then down, or it's Horschel, Von Taylor, Gay, Kirk, and then somewhere, mix in whatever you can fit in. I don't think a lot of people are going to go with like a Hadwin, Scheffler, Wise together, for example. Right. So, that's for me, not leveraging the field. I just think, because who knows if it's right. I just think there's not that big of a difference. And, I'm pretty sure you talked about it on the Smash. Kenny and I talked about it with Webb. He's rusty. Got to have him. Like I have him in one of my 5, I believe. But, I want to have one with him and build it accordingly. But I like Horschel more just because the form. I get it. I know it's Webb is $600 more. I know his stats, his long-term, everything's going to rate out. It's just rust versus form. I like a guy that's been playing golf. And Horschel's been playing golf.
Yeah, the one thing that I was going to bring on tonight, for people that took the time to watch us and watch it back. So I didn't mention on Final Thoughts because, I want to keep a couple gems for here. Is one thing I think people forget to do, and this is a week that it will bite you if you don't do the research, is that when you're running your stat models, I don't care where you get them from, Fantasy National, wherever, yourself. Don't forget that at this time of the year, and this happens some in the early spring as well, after all those weird tournaments that we have, a lot of these last 24, last 12, last 36 are not the last 4 tournaments you saw because there was no shot tracker. And so, Fantasy National has a nice feature. I know ours that we have behind the scenes that I've used does as well, that you can click that 24 number and it'll tell you the rounds. What people I think in their head is, oh, this is including last week and all that. It's not. Like English's numbers aren't including that. So the stats can be deceiving because it doesn't really pick up the recent form of these tournaments that don't have shot tracker because there's no way for it to. So don't let yourself, you'll see in my Final Thoughts rankings, I did a lot of movement on some guys and I'll be interested to see if anybody questions it. But the reason being is because I had to do some manual stuff to account for, so like Kuchar's a good one. Kuchar's stats, if you look at last 12, look like garbage. But if you go look at it, his last 12 rounds that had shot tracker, he didn't play well. It doesn't account for these last 2 or 3 times he played. So you don't let it fool you too much, and take that into consideration when you're trying to do some tiebreakers tonight. I don't think enough. We talk about this when we get hot and heavy in March. February, March, heading towards the Masters. Is that when you're running your models, no matter where it's at, don't care what side, make sure you understand which rounds are feeding that, because you may have a round back from 9 months ago or something you didn't even realize it just because of the way you have the restrictions on there, or the criteria selected.
Hey,
And a
Gub,
lot,
just to
yeah.
not to cut you off, but I want to know this myself even. So you know probably better than I do. But with Fantasy National, if let's say Kirk last week,
Yep.
if you ran last 50 on Kirk and didn't put a date setting in like the last 60 days, it would literally pull his last 50 rounds, even though those rounds are from a year and a half ago, correct?
Absolutely. And it would include 0 from last week because none of those rounds have stats.
Right. And so that's what I wanted to, I was just bringing that up because I've mentioned it before in Slack and I thought this was correct, that I normally put like at least a 60-day or less on my dates as well. So that way it'll show me, it'll skew out rounds. And like you said, it'll get it down so that it'll actually be like, oh shit, how come Kirk only has 0 rounds? Here we go. It's because the date setting. So I always say that because people are looking at last 50, like last actual 50 per golfer. For one golfer, that could be a year and a half of results. For another that are from way back when. For another golfer, it could literally be the last 50 rounds because it's Sung J M who plays every tournament. You know what I mean? Right. So it was just something like that.
Yeah, and depending on the criteria you pick, you could be comparing apples to oranges between guys, not compare. Meaning, I don't think sometimes people don't realize when you say last 12 or last 24, they think these guys are being compared on the exact same 24 rounds, and it's not true. It's that guy's last 24 based on the time frame. Let's say you do last 6 months. Okay, well, you're all in the same time frame, but these guys don't play the same every week, so it's still not apples to apples. So there was a lot of people in Slack that didn't realize that when we started talking around I think a Masters or so, and people were floored and they were like, man, I never realized that. So it's a big factor to think of. Obviously at 9/11 Eastern, it probably just freaks a lot of people out and they're going through their model going, what the fuck? But that wasn't the point. It was a good time to say it. And I thought about it earlier because this tournament, it does affect. So you have a lot of guys up there that their rounds are like from June, even if you ran last 12, because they just didn't, maybe they didn't make the Tour Champion or the FedEx Cup playoffs. And then they come back in the fall swing tournaments they did play, had no shot tracker. So this shit's going back forever. And you're kind of comparing little apples to oranges there. So something to keep in mind, especially as we go into. We have a couple of features where we are putting into our tools that will help you see that a little better. So I'm excited for you guys to get it, but you're still going to have to be conscious of it or cognizant of it, however you want to look at it. I know we go off topic there, but there wasn't a lot of questions, but it looks like people got fired up because there was 0 and now everybody's answering. But I want to do a little bit of strategy there because we had a little bit of a different tournament, and then fill you guys in on what's coming up here in our break. If you don't know, be sure to get in on the Honda Challenge. You guys have the same opportunity to get 7 tickets, 6 earned and 1 bonus if you do all 6. If you don't know, go to gupscorner.com/challenge, read all about it. And if you have questions for us, let us know. I'll start off with OG. He said, here in the plantations was not toughened up as much as I was liking playing. It's playing easier. Is it just a tiebreaker? I heard the same. I said that, I believe, early Monday that I had, or my solo pod when I'm talking to myself, which is kind of different. But I had the things that I had read and took from even, Davis Love and the architects and stuff was that the intent was, I think I put a quote in there where he was like, challenging but fun and playable or something like that's what David Love, like their intent wasn't to do a remodel and make it harder. And I don't think it is harder. I think the only reason this year it could be is because if the greens are playing hard or some of the approach shots or I know some of the edges around the greens and stuff have been redone, they can make it a little harder. But I still think overall it'll play a shot and a half to 2 shots easier when you look at the 2-day splits of just straight scoring, because that's all we'll have. So showdown for definitely, I favor that. I mean, 75% of the tournament's played on Seaside, so that's really all I'm factoring there. Do you have anything different than that, Tambo?
Yeah, so only because I like the Steve Story take that you brought up on the Monday on the Smash Factor, and I think it's just for this year, maybe. Like you said, I don't think he went off the rails here to try and make this course harder, but I believe, the course was literally almost 2 strokes easier at some points, right? Where this course was just getting destroyed compared to the other. And so you got to think, I don't think he would make it harder on purpose just to make it super hard, but I don't think he would leave it necessarily. I think it was, like you said, still challenging but fun. So still scoreable, but let's be good and score. Let's play good golf and score. Not, not like a U.S. Open or something, but also with this possible rollout and everything you guys talked about. For me, if I was playing Showdown and I don't play round 1, but if I was, I would honestly mix my pool and or go all opposite just because I know it's contrarian mindset. And it sounds like I'm doing it just to do it. But I just think the automatic, if everyone thinks the same thing, I just don't always think. I think we have more reason to believe that it could be the other way than not. So for me, I would play the best golfers and just play them, and maybe you'll be contrarian because everyone does just target that course. That's just my 2 cents. I don't play round one, like I said, just my 2 cents on strategy and game theory. That's all.
No, and I agree. And I think the only a tiebreaker-ish could be potentially that it still has 2 more par fives. So that obviously defaults to most guys, but it still doesn't mean that there won't be guys go. It's not going to be like a leader. I don't think it'll be a leaderboard of, top 10 are going to all be plantation guys. I don't believe that, but you never know.
Yeah.
Both courses are set up to where if it's windy, it makes it tougher. And there's just not much wind at all right now. Very light compared to normal. And so I really think I put my cut at -4 this week, especially with potentially 90 guys getting cut. I think you're going to have to go up there and get scorers and make the cut and get your 6 to 6. Cameron Tringali is third in my model this week and low ownership. Thoughts? I mean, I don't want to say he's just a guy for me. He's not really high up on anything I've looked at. He hasn't really moved up much at all for me. Is there anything? I don't know if you guys even mentioned him. I know Kenny Kim likes him at times, but
yeah, if I was playing like my normal 100, I did mention him just because of that. I said like everyone wanted him, and even when he was 8,800 or whatever, people still wanted him. And it's not like the field got drastically better from when he used to be 8, 9K. He was just on a roll. He was the Harris English run, right? He had like 4 or 5 tournaments where he was just crushing it, and now he's down at 7,200. I mean, I don't just think he fell apart overnight. So if you want to slide him in there, go ahead. I just think he's more of a 10 plus lineups guy than he is priority to get into a 1 to 3 max.
Yeah, and he definitely, his recent form had him move up in my model. So I think he's top 40 in my model right now. So definitely worth a play in an MME type build. Don't think I'll get there in a single style. He'll bubble as far as my 10 lineup build. So I guess I'm not against him by any means. How does recent form deep dive get Stanley at number 4 when his results have not been good? So it's probably a longer question than what I can spin. Hopefully I answered it with some of that. So remember, it's taking his last 12 rounds inside the last 3 months. And I'm looking at 4 specific key categories that I've targeted that week. So within those categories, he's second in approach, 69th in birdies or better, 9th in greens and reg, and 23rd in ball striking. So a cumulative that with the 12 rounds I'm looking at compared to everybody else, he's up there in the top 4. So it's a different way that I go about it than most, but I also think it's the reason why, historically it's given me an edge in some place. So doesn't mean it's the end all be all, but it's just the way that I've always done things, and it's not let me down. Although I'm down this year. I mean, I've not had the best years. Go ahead.
I was just going to add on Stanley. The other thing too, I think is, for me anyway, that stuff aside, to not even just to not answer that question, but if they're worried about Stanley, I mean, not only is he going to pop in the stats, like you just said, he's 4 for 4 made cuts here with a 21st and a 33rd, his last 2 times playing it. And an interesting thing about Stanley is it's more about, can he make the cut? So of his last 29 events on tour, he's made 18 cuts. But let me tell you this, of those 18 cuts, 10 of them are top 25s. So when he's making the cut, he's balling out. And, top 25 at $7,200, I'll take it, please.
Well, and, probably just to add on, I agree. Just to make sure. So I don't remember who that was. Kevin, if you're listening, but also it could be an indication of poor putting, right? Because very rarely I'm going to look at putting on my recent form or my course history deep dive. I'm looking at 4 stats in specific. So he could have been on fire those 12 rounds inside 3 months and just not made a damn putt, right? And so I will tell you myself, when I'm making player pull cuts and I'm moving down the list, that's some of the stuff I go look at, especially a guy like that. Hey, why is Stanley moving up? Let me go say, oh shit, he's losing like 4 strokes putting over the last 4 months. Okay, so the stats I'm looking at, he's fucking awesome, but he hadn't had the putter. Is he a guy that can traditionally putt good? I don't know. Let's answer that question. Is this a surface that he putts good on? I don't know. Let's answer that question. Those are the things I'll go through in deciding those finer player pools. Some of the stuff we'll go into in this little winter series as well.
And just to go in further on, I'm like, yeah, you nailed it. Absolutely. I just went and pulled a gut for this topic of conversation. I think it's good, especially for folks that listen back to it, and we'll tell them that in the Slack tonight. Anyone who didn't catch it, you can listen to this one on Monday. Even there's so much strategy we talked in it, or whenever you get a free break. But absolutely destroying it tee to green in 3 of his last 4, which is the Houston, the Shriners, and the Safeway. So late September and October, obviously nothing for OHL, and gaining 5, 7, and 5.6 on approach in the last 3, which is crushing it as well. Losing 6, losing 3, and then 2.7 on putting. So it's exactly what you said. On tee to green and approach, balling out. On the putter, not so good.
Right. So then you got to make the decision. What do you think he'll do this week? And that's why I'll go look at some putting splits and what has he putted on in those 12 rounds versus what we got this week. And then I'll also double up with what you said. I'll go to that guy and go, okay, if I really like him for everything else, well, how has he played here? And if he's played here, great. Now I bring that piece in and go, okay, he's on fire besides putting. He has a great history here. He's in my pool. I like him, right? So I move him in. Or if he was shit here, then I'd go, okay, he really ain't putting well. This isn't the spot he seems to like for whatever reason. Even though he's playing good tee to green, I may move him off. That's kind of the mind thinking that I go through. And yeah, it's maybe longer than some, but it's definitely how I work through my player pool when I'm getting down to the final cuts. It's not a very quick and easy, decision. Some are just autos, and then some are like this where they kind of pop out like that. Horsepad says English is on fire. Is he in play? I think so. I mean, definitely. I think the ownership was a sticker shock for some. Not the ownership, the price tag. I hadn't made it there yet. I definitely would probably. I'm not real big on mini in the 9K range, so I don't mind sticking there. Especially he looks to be the lowest owned. He's not. He's a bubble for me, but not really liking anybody but Aaron Wise and maybe Zach Johnson right now in the 9K. I don't mind Harris English. What about you?
No, I don't like him. Sticker shock or not, don't like the price. That's factored in. He's got to do quite well. I wrote up against him. Bottom line is, for me, and it's great that he's this good at putting, but I'm just saying he's like 10 or 11 straight with gaining strokes putting. And right. And some of those, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them were losing strokes tee to green. 7 of them out of the 12 were losing strokes on approach. Like, it's been on fire lately. Can he continue? Maybe. I don't like chasing it when the price jumps up that high because now it's built in. It's like buying a stock high. You got to hope that it keeps rising, and sometimes it just stays equal. Maybe, if he can get 3rd, 4th, or 5th, or 6th like he's been doing, it's awesome. I don't like going there. I like other guys around him, and the ownership factors that in as well, right? What are the chances of him doing it, and what's the ownership going to be?
Yeah, and his break-even point's a lot less, so the ceiling is lower now because a top 5 now returns value per se, right? Where a top 5 at 8,100, he's like, oh, he blew it away. So you got to factor that in when you're looking. D-Rock, I answered your question in the deal. CU Tiger says, thoughts on building more balance from, let's say, Kisner and below. Feels like there's so many options in the 6K range. We're going to see a lot of Webb and Horschel plus 2-8 guys and then 6 and 7-8. That's what I led the show off with tonight. I don't know that there is a right answer. I definitely, if you can't pick up from the final thoughts, I think Wise is a very sneaky play. I like Zach Johnson. But there's so many mix and a match and you can do in that entire range. I don't think you have to zone into quote unquote balance versus not balance. I think you can completely start your lineups, even start in the 8s and go down and fade the entire 9s and 10s if you wanted to. There's nothing there that says that's a bad decision, or even just take one of them and then go really, really balanced. So I don't hate that at all. I do think what you said about, like I mentioned at the beginning, that'll probably be a common build. You grab a top guy, you go 2 in the 8, and then you sprinkle in down in the 7 and 6s. Anything different there from you, Tambo?
No, you said it best. And just to backtrack on English, we talked about at the start of the show, like anything that stood out to me. I think English's ownership is off, and it's not knock on your ownership projections. I'm just saying that if you look at it, Howell and Kuchar just don't ever get any love. I just went and looked up the tags, and they're not the be-all, end-all either. I know you incorporate tags into it, but Harris English is double the tags as of right now for Howell and Kuchar, and that's another factor for me. Because if he's 13%, I feel like I'm missing out. I know I don't factor just ownership, but I mean, that's pretty good ownership for a guy that's been on fire. I expect him to be a lot higher. I just can see him flipping up there, and I see him getting closer to 18 to 20 and those other guys dropping down to the 10 to 12s, where a guy like Howell and Kuchar might be your, contrarian plays there. And that's not a knock. It's just a standout to me to bring the point up and back to the guy's point on English and liking him. Ownership had a factor to do with it. I think he's going to be higher owned, and I don't like it.
How much are you guys valuing last week's results with courses looking similar? I'm not a guy that does that a whole lot, no matter where at what point, because I just have my system and my process, and I go through it. That may incorporate that naturally, but I don't go whether it's riding the hot guy in general. This is a little more unique because you do have pretty similar courses, but I factor that into my process already, albeit whether it's now or if I'm at you know the Honda, and I go, oh, okay, courses that play like the Honda are this, and that. That's already in my process. So last week's course is in my process, just like if they played, Mayakoba 6 weeks ago and then they're playing this week, Mayakoba would be in the process because it's a similar course. So it is, but it's not just because it was last week. Does that make sense?
It makes sense to me. I mean, that's
Okay.
exactly it. It's going to be in your recent form because it's literally the event they just played. Sorry, but to me, it's a little bit different. It's I say this all the time. We play a pricing game. There's salary constraints. I could pick and tell you who my favorite 6 golfers are, but they'd cost me about 20,000 too much. So I can't play that lineup, unfortunately. But my take is more on monitoring that. But if the guy crushed it last week and then gets a 3K price bump, it's golf. He could fall off the face of the earth this week, and now he's 3K more. I might not go there, and I'm just using an extreme example, but it comes a lot, more to that, right? Our skill set in following this golf all year long and staying on top of these guys and inside
Right.
tracks, and thanks to everybody in the Slack that goes to the events and sends us back stuff. Like, we'll incorporate all these things into our process, and at the same time, it does matter what their price is, right? Who's a value because of A, B, and C, and X, Y, and Z.
See you, Tiger. What'd you find in your deep dive that dropped Hadwin so much? Really was a limited size, but he didn't do well before. He does do great in comparative courses. There was just a little bit of everything. There was some manual adjustment there on my end. He's definitely not a bad player. I believe you were on him Monday, Tambo.
Yep, I like Hadwin. I know who you did bump in your manual adjustments, Ryan Armour. I saw that.
Yeah, I mean Armour's natural. I mean, shit.
No, he fits the course
Yeah,
anyway. I love
yeah.
the guy. I'm just saying it's just funny when you see him shoot way up your book. I said, is that little extra 5 clicks there from Gup on the other side? That's his boy.
Yeah, well, I'd go down on him just to keep people off of him. I don't want to do that on purpose.
No, I know. I actually love the guy. He's a solid pick this week. I do like it. So I just thought it was funny that he popped up. But yeah, I still like Hadwin. I think, like you say, it just comes down to, pick your poison. You mentioned Wise. I definitely agree with that. Kisner, there's some sneaky ability in both of those guys right around him if you want to be a little different. But I certainly still like I like Hadwin, and we know he can putt, and this can sometimes turn into a little bit of a putting contest. He has been solid on approach in the tracked rounds for October and late September. So I mean, he's if he keep that iron game going, I mentioned on the pod, maybe the President's Cup pick, a little bit of pressure off, feels good, wants to show up. It's all those things, right? You never know.
Yeah, I don't mind him. He's a guy. I'd rather right now I'd play Wise over Hadwin. I mean, I won't play them both, but that would be my personal choice. Fam asked, what's on your shirt? Tambo asked that too. It says haters gonna hate. That's kind of a motto for the week right now. Fam would ask that. Let's see. Now we're getting conversations. Take those into golf, not the questions. I'm not gonna pull a May on you, but it's hard to read everything. What player have you changed most since the beginning of the week, either up or down? We kind of answered that a little earlier. I'm not going to answer this guy. Do you have anybody who's any sleeper for you right now? Whether it be, I wouldn't say dollar amount, maybe ownership type value. Is there anybody that obviously it's kind of sounds like I'm repeating myself a lot, but Wise is one of the guys that pops for me. Being 5%, 9,400. Don't think he'll go there real well, or I don't think a lot of people will go there at all. I had a guy that I've done some research on. I'm not going to tout him or anything, but there's a couple guys down really low that I think, one thing I thought of it myself, this was just kind of me at the gym. I can remember it was this morning or yesterday morning going, okay, what if one strategy was to take a $6,000 or $6,100 guy and just fit 5 guys who you love. So if you were banking on 6 of 6 being like 2 or 3%, and you go 5 of 6 is going to cash in my field I'm in. So I'll just take a crapshoot on the guy that I feel best about, super, super low, to free me up some money. And even if one guy misses the cut, at least I have a pretty strong 5 of 6, and it allowed me to build differently than most. That may be a dumb strategy, and I'm not tested it, but A guy that I like kind of is on nobody's radar, I'm probably sure of, is Davis Riley. Very limited. He's 6,000 bare minimum. I think he's worth a super flyer in a 20, 30, 40 build type deal, MME style. So there's a name for you if you wanted to have a sleeper. Is there anybody like you? And then what do you think of that as far as, not saying you're going to bank on 5 or 6 being cashable, but because it's so, I mean, there's 101 guys in the 6K range. Is there anything going, if you see a guy, Ben Taylor, I've talked about Ben Taylor Monday. I like Ben Taylor, 6,200. Why not take a Ben Taylor and fit the 5 best guys you like in the assumption that a 2 to 4% 6 to 6 is possible with 90 guys getting cut? Is that stupid, or is that just it's just a thought with me because it's something new we're talking about?
Yeah, no, it's not stupid. I'll answer all 3 of them because I mentioned, it's funny you say Riley. That's who I talked about that on the pod on Monday with Kenny, because it's 6,000 straight. He's 15 for 20 made cuts on any tour on the world. And in the last 2 PGA events, he got 39th and 46th. So It's not the craziest field. I said that's good. Now, to your strategy point, you and I talked about this on a previous E9, I believe, and just didn't go in depth on it. It's definitely something to look at. I said in Slack the other night, I believe that's a strategy for the $200 single entry or the $100, because I said, you know what I mean? I think it was with Kenny on Monday talking with him. Yeah, it was with Kenny. We had this little strategy talk. I said, you're not going to win a Millie Maker or a $8 this week with a 5 out of 6. I just truly don't believe there's too many lineups. There's too many variations. Someone will have the nuts, what turns out to be the nuts that week, not the optimal. We're not talking about this where 43K shows up. I'm talking about someone will have a 6 out of 6 that has the highest score of the week. So you're going to be in trouble in most events if you don't have that. But I do believe in something like the $200 single entry with 200 people or less. If you build, a lineup that has Davis Riley and jam in 5 of the best guys that you love, that you think have high upside, are just killers and going to go out and rip it up this week, and they do. Now, if Riley comes through, you're really saved, because what if 4 of them go off and one of them comes top 50 or top 40, but of course still makes the cut in your mind? Or what if those 5 just destroy and Riley doesn't make the cut? He still gets 2 days of scoring in there. So what? I do believe a 5 out of 6 will win a $200 single entry, no problem this year. I think more than once. I think that's a very viable strategy, and something, again, we're behind the wall here with the members only, but I think it's a thing that we'll work on it and look at. I think it's a very viable strategy. Absolutely.
Yeah, I started some back testing, and I'll finish it and definitely have some kind of report on not only since the T65, but just kind of some trends that I do it every year, but this year we'll be able to get it out to the premium guys. Moving over to the YouTube, if you guys have been in the live channel, we're kind of wrapped up there. I'm going to make my cash line up, and I don't know, is it viable for $8? I don't know what he's asking. Oh, in one of the 7 lineups, is that viable for the $8 or the $3.20 max? I can't I mean, unfortunately, I don't do cash really, so I can't comment on like how to play it. I know some people say I always play my cash lineups no matter what, in the MME builds. I will say that if I build a lineup, and this is me personally, that lineup is in every contest I'm in. So as long as it's a 1 max or more, I have the same lineup in all my contests, no matter what. So that's just me. I've always done that. Meaning if I do the 200 single, the 100 single, and the 50 single, I only have 1 lineup for the week. Like I don't build 2 or 3 lineups. It's just not how I do. I just always, and I've stuck with that in everything I do. Basketball, football, it doesn't matter. And if I had the $44 and $8 with those 3, that 1 lineup would be on all 5, and then I may spin off and do more in the 44 or 8, but that one's in everything I do. That's just kind of how I start out. I know you may have different ways there if you have anything to add on.
No, I think it's fine. I think I always would put my cash lineup into a tournament. I mean, obviously the $8 is a different animal altogether, but hey, if you're building a cash lineup, the way you're building it is with the good values, but typically what you're looking for is a high floor, high ceiling. So what if they all hit their ceiling? They're all capable. They all have a good floor. They wouldn't go into your lineup. So if they all have their ceiling week, Kenny has definitely had weeks where his cash lineup crushed tournaments, because right. I remember it would have won the 555 one week for like 20K. And everyone's like, holy shit, dude, did you? And he's like, of course I didn't play that. But if he had of, or if one of us had of, it would have won the 555 with 200 people in it. So I know it's not the $8. I'm just saying your cash lineup definitely can win a tournament. It's more about, how you're going to feel if you see that it would have won you X amount. But typically there's a lot of high ownership in cash, and that won't be good for a large field tournament just because. But throw it in. It's $8.
Yep, we got a couple minutes, so we're going to speed through these questions and then take a little time off for the coin flip. We still got a late night ahead. Okay, Carl, we got to that. What do you think of aggregate ownership? I mean, you really have to trust the ownership numbers, right? And I do them for, I mean, I've been doing them for a while, and I still have ups and downs. So weeks, definitely midstream of the season when you got a lot of data and information and recent data. I think that my ownership's there with just about anybody, but you're still even the best of the best, whether it's me or any of the other sites. You may hit a 88 to 90%, R squared number, and that's all 150 guys. But when you talk about top 50 players in the field, you're looking for a 70%, 75% R squared, which R squared just means the correlation between projected and actual is very close. 100% would be dead nuts on. So there's still a variance there that I don't know if I can build my lineups restrictions based on a number that has X amount of variance. But that's, you can take it as a guideline, kind of like salary. Some people say I only play 49-1 to 49-8, and that makes me different. I mean, there's many different ways to do it, but I don't think it's the end all be all. That's my personal opinion. Tambo, anything different?
And just it's not the sample size will never be big enough to know. So all the articles that say, yeah, you got to be under 80%, or all the Millie Maker winners have been under 80%. We're talking about 4 years or maybe 5 years now of Millie Makers. So you're talking about 20 tournaments where this happened. It's just, I mean, I definitely believe in it. I get you have to have some variables on your lineup so that you can stand out and so that you can leverage the field and get ahead. But to cap a number, what if you put, okay, let's cap it at 70, and oh shit, the winner was 74%. You screwed yourself. You couldn't have had that lineup because you didn't, or who knows? It's also, you could have had the lineup. I shouldn't say that, but it's what your ownership percentages were up against. So I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying it's all like when people say, oh, I'm going to build all my lineups 43 to 45K because the optimal 15% of the time falls within that. Okay. You got to have the exact right players. In most cases, those optimals have a 0.001% owned guy on them. So good luck picking that needle in the haystack if he's even in your pool.
Right. And I think if that's an easy way for you to keep yourself from getting too chalky, then I say absolutely use it as long as you understand how you're using. No different than the salary restriction. If you go, I'm not going to spend over 49.7 because it's simple for you to process, by all means, do what makes you comfortable. So it's another way of doing it for sure. Casey says, love the final thoughts. Thanks. Appreciate that. Thanks, Justin. Lloyd's everywhere. I like Lloyd. I may give him a free ticket just because I like him so much.
I like Lloyd too.
He's in every chat, everything. That's about it. I know we're going to do a pretty hot and fire coin flip. I have some interesting takes there. I'm excited for football as always. I'm bearing down and clawing in on some contests. We'll update those. So it's a grind season for sure. Next week's going to be, action packed with Thanksgiving. When do you guys do Thanksgiving? You already had it, right?
I already had it, yeah. But American Thanksgiving is my favorite, though. So, I'm half American.
Do they recognize American Thanksgiving, or is it a normal work day?
Oh, it's a normal work day for people unlike me who never work on American Thanksgiving. I call in sick or I don't go.
Right.
I just tell them, here's the deal. Like next week, I ain't working. I'm watching football all day with my boy. We do a bunch of lineups up. Like it's going to be fun, right? That's what it's all about, especially with DFS now. But I mean, it's already, I was watching it forever. I love all the American holidays. We'll cook
with that. I'll update you guys on I don't know what the family situation is this weekend leading into the holiday. Saturday night, worst case will be, we'll have live Slack questions and answers. That's probably what we'll do because there's a lot to prep for on a short, next, we don't have golf, which is good, but we do have Thanksgiving, which is a highly played slate. So we want to put some time and effort into that and kind of prep a little bit. We got betting to get in. We got a lot to do. So we may just take Saturday night off. So we'll be in the Slack answering questions and all that like normal. I may be traveling. That's one of the reasons as well. And next week's gonna be a pretty busy week for football. And being off, I'll be able to hang out and get more into it. So I'm looking forward to that. I'll ask JB real quick, and he can just say yes or no. Just to get a heads up on it, are the Thursday Thanksgiving games treated just like the Thursday now as far as Survivor and Super 7 are concerned? They're not included? Okay, not included in Super 7, but they are. So just like it is now, I've had a couple people DM me that, and I didn't know for sure. My gut was it's just like normal. So you can play all three or one of them on Survivor. If you're in Survivor, God bless you, because I'm way out of that. But Super 7, it'll only be Sunday games, and it's pretty much always that way. It is that way until maybe we get to where they're doing the Saturday, Sunday. Saturdays Okay, Saturday's included. Once we get to that, which is like week 15, 16, something like that, they start, once college football's over, they start having a few Saturday games. Those are including the Super 7. So basically, Thursday games are never included. And that's the easy way of saying it. I am still leading by a game and a half. So if you're not up there and you want to root for me, I appreciate it. I'll spend the money wisely at the Honda on you guys if I win it. As always, just kidding. No, I'm not kidding about spending the money on you. I'll do that, obviously. But if you want to send love my way, I appreciate it. Tambo, I know you're going to be traveling this week, so you'll join us maybe in the Slack Saturday night. If not, I'll go solo for a little while. I'll update you that on Friday, everybody, or by Friday at worst case. If you want to stick around for some football, give us about 10 minutes to grab a drink. I got to go kiss my kids, put them in bed real quick, and we will be live on the coin flip. We'll see you in about 10 minutes then. Thanks, guys.